us to be in wholesome relationship with one another.
Not better.
That's too loud.
That's too loud. I was trying to balance. Okay.
So tonight is very special because I'm really loud. And that means the transmission is so much clearer.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, great. That sounds good to me as well. That sounds good. Yes. So this evening, I am so delighted that we have moved into the chapter of destructive emotions. And let's talk about how much I love talking about destructive emotions. So we're really going to look a bit at those themes and understanding at only one part and one level of what are the consequences of these destructive emotions and what are our opportunities around them. We'll start with a guided meditation, then we will both offer some ideas around this theme and topic. Even though the chapter, I think, is only maybe 25 or so pages, it might take us 3 weeks to get through it. So for those of you who've been here with us, we've been making our way through this really simple and really beautiful text called Beyond Religion, which is truly a text about how we apply ethics to our everyday life so that we can live in accordance with some way of wholesomeness, so that we can lay our head down at night and feel the bliss of blamelessness, a feeling of I just had a day in which I lived according to my ethics and values and it feels so good. And the way that he divides up this book, he makes it accessible for everyone, hence Beyond Religion. So folks who have a deep interest in care and spiritual practice, folks who maybe have no identified spiritual practice whatsoever. And I want to start off by just welcoming all of you here to the San Francisco Dharma Collective. It's really wonderful. I know we have at least one person who's never been here before, coming from Australia. Welcome. And welcoming everyone who either has been here before or not here before. The San Francisco Dharma Collective is a volunteer-run center. So us as teachers, we are just invited to show up, happily to do so, to share some ideas with you, and to really be spiritual friends with you all. Some of the main objectives and values of the Dharma Collective is to make people feel welcome here, and to make them feel included and understood. And no matter what, that won't always be something we live up to. But it's important that our intention and motivation is one in which we want to approach this space with an open and compassionate heart. One of the values that Chandra and I really hold is that part of the work we're doing here is building sangha. And that means talking to each other, listening to each other, and that's a right place for us to have this understanding. So I'm hoping that tonight, as every night, we can really engage in this practice together. Now, we can engage in these practices together with that intention of empathy and compassion for one another. That we recognize that whatever it is we are saying or whatever it is we are expecting to hear back from another person might be informed by a lot of past old history. Right? We have no idea who is showing up in this room and with what. Maybe we even think we know someone because we see them here every week. But this week they're showing up different. So just kind of taking in that recognition that we're not totally aware of all of the experiences in this room. And that it's important for us as much as possible to treat one another as the divine beings that we are. Worthy of reverence and openness and gratitude and appreciation. So that's our hope. And as I often mention, we also want to know from you, directly or indirectly, in a way that feels good for you, that's how we can make this space more welcoming. So please definitely feel free to reach out to us before or after and help us with that. So with that, I'm going to invite us to move towards our meditation. The meditation we're doing directly relates to this content of destructive emotions. The meditation is one that is called a handshake with emotion. This is a practice that was originally created by Sokni Rinpoche, who many of you have heard me talk about, and many of you have done this practice before. He designed the practice to really help people actually just work through some of the obstacles to our basic concentrative practices. So we sit down, we want to focus, and what happens? We have a thought. And then that thought draws us to an emotion. And then the emotion just like throws us off the rails. And then 20 minutes later, it all rings. So the idea with handshake is we actually include these difficult emotional experiences into our practice by making them the focus of our practice. And so the handshake, when we approach an emotion, so I will invite us to consider a certain emotional episode. When we're invited to emotion, what we do is we focus on what it feels like in the body. What are the sensations of this emotion? And what we hope to notice and observe is that emotions actually only last about 30 to 90 seconds, unless we re-trigger them with thoughts. So I can feel a little bit upset, remembering an event that happened to me in the day, maybe an unkind email, or my perception of an unkind email. And I can feel my maybe irritation, or sadness, or anxiety, whatever emotion that elicits. And I can watch kind of cascade of embodied experiences around that. And if I have the ability, the concentrative ability to not continue making a story of, why did they send me that email? They always send me that email. You know what I'm going to do about that? Right? That whole narrative. Then we just get to watch the natural unfolding of our emotion experience. Very rarely do we get to do this in real time. Often it's happening to us, we're reacting, we're responding, we're suppressing, we're avoiding, whatever it is we're doing. So we have this beautiful little laboratory here where we get to meditate and hold ourselves in love, with love, so that we can watch this emotion arise and naturally see the dissipation of the felt experience of it. So that's going to be our goal for the practice here. I'm going to invite you all to find a position that is comfortable for you to sit. I know it's the end of the day. It's been very cold. The news has been terrible. There might be a sense of heaviness. So really consider what factors can support the uprightness of your posture, your vividness and wakefulness of meditation. Chandra often offers a suggestion to come to the front of your chair, that you're really feeling that kind of just perching at attention and noticing. Okay. Yeah, it was just
the little box
mm-hmm.
needs to be that direction.
Over here.
Here we go, yeah. It's talking to that thing over there.
And that'll make it happier. Okay.
Silent, longing.
You're definitely wanting some longing. So as we settle into our posture, we want to balance these qualities of relaxation and ease alongside vividness, uprightness, wakefulness. We can find these relaxed and soft qualities throughout the muscles in the face and the throat, inviting them through the chest and the belly. And finding the natural uprightness of our spine. And we'll simply begin by noticing what's here right now in the body. Noticing the sensations throughout the entire tactile field of the body. with gentle curiosity exploring different areas of sensation. Maybe there's a tingling or a tightness right at the base of the neck. Maybe there's a feeling more of expansion around the chest or the belly. With gentleness and curiosity, explore the body and its sensations from within the body. When the mind gets caught up in memory, image, thought, or fantasy, simply relax. Release whatever has captured your attention and gently return, refreshing your interest and just noticing the sensations of the body right now. If the mind feels just very busy and distracted, you can select a smaller area. Maybe noticing sensations just around the belly or just through the muscles in the face. And then gently shift to notice the quality of the mind right now. Does the mind feel spacious and open? Does it feel tight, agitated, peaceful, interested, calm? With that gentle curiosity, simply notice the quality of the mind that's here right now. And shifting once again to simply noticing if there's any emotional tone in the body right now. Maybe residue from something happening earlier in the day. Maybe some response to discomfort happening here right now. See if you can identify the felt experience of any emotion residue in the body right now. Before we shift this practice to the next phase, noticing what's in the body, the mind, and the emotions. Consider an intention or aspiration that's meaningful for this evening. This could be the reason why you came. This could be an overarching theme, goal, or idea. It could be something simple like belonging, kindness, caring. Find a single word or phrase. Gently, silently repeat it to yourself. Now gently releasing this intention and aspiration, we shift back to this awareness of the body, this home ground. We're going to fine-tune and calibrate this embodied awareness of our emotions. So once again, just notice what's here, if anything has shifted or changed, even in these couple breaths. Now shifting to memory in the mind, I want to invite you to consider bringing forth a memory that evokes an emotion that's not incredibly strong, not the hardest thing you may be dealing with right now, but some kind of event or experience in the last day or two which easily comes to mind and evoked a sense of irritation or anxiety, disappointment, frustration. This could have been an emotion that we experienced towards another person or towards ourselves, possibly towards the world and the news. It can be hard to choose, but just find what easily comes to mind. Something you have good recall of. It doesn't have to be the perfect example, just something that evoked an emotional response. I want you to now bring this scene to mind vividly. Remembering what was going on, who else was involved, if anyone else. What were you seeing or hearing? What were the thoughts? What were the words said, if any words were said at all? And what was the feeling in the body? For a couple moments, we invite this memory back, which will naturally give rise to the emotion returning. We hold this memory in mind gently. For a couple more moments, as much as possible, remembering the scene, remembering what was felt, what was experienced, and maybe starting to notice that there's already some shifts and changes in the body. that through remembering this emotional event, we experience a bit of this emotional event. As much as possible, try not to get too pulled into the story cognitively, thinking about what you should have said or could have said or didn't say. And slowly begin releasing this memory. Focusing and dropping into the felt experience of the body. Notice with precision, what are the sensations in the body now? Maybe there's feelings of tension in the face, in the chest, in the belly. As you notice these sensations, feel or imagine as though there were enough space for them. If the sensations feel too unpleasant, you can gently open the eyes and focus on the belly. Notice if the mind keeps wanting to interfere, to replay the story, to think of different alternatives and solutions, and keep gently releasing the cognitive aspect and dropping into the body, to the felt experience. Noticing as these sensations in the body shift, change, maybe even start to dissipate. Finding more and more space between what could feel like unpleasant sensations, tightness, heaviness, ache. If the sensations are subtle, no problem. Just keep noticing the body. If the mind returns to that story, or just gets caught up in fantasy or other memories or images, gently relax, release whatever has captured your attention, and return to noticing sensations in the body. allow the noticing to be soft, caring, even kind. Keep coming back to noticing, dropping into the body. And feel or imagine a sense of natural kindness or goodness just below the surface of this very noticing, this very practice is coming from a deeper place of simple and basic caring. Feel that caring rising up through the chest, and gently infusing the quality of noticing. With caring intention, noticing the sensations throughout the body. The residue of the emotion gently shifting, changing, unfolding. That same caring gentleness as a mother rocking her crying child. The sensations associated with the emotion have completely dissipated, shifted, or moved around. Just keep noticing and refreshing the interest of sensations in the body as they suddenly change, move, and shift. Each moment brand new, each moment right here and now, at home in the body. One last time, inviting in that kindness and curiosity. Feel or imagine that kindness as though it were warm water being poured into a cool bath. That space of just caring, irrespective of what the emotion was triggered by, what the result was. Simply recognizing this simple desire to be kind, to be caring, gentle with myself. Inviting that kindness throughout the whole body. Finding this body to be a body of caring, a body of love, a body of compassion. Thank you for your practice. Questions or reflections? Everybody find an emotional episode they could bring up? Yeah. Yep. Yep. And when it disappeared, so in case you guys couldn't hear it, she easily found it, an emotional episode, but then it kept disappearing. So did the felt sensation of it also disappear? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, right. Then you can work with that feeling of annoyance. Yeah. And I think this practice really is so useful when we're trying to do other meditations also. And there we are trying to do some shamatha and our difficult emotion arises, and we can make that the focus of our shamatha. But if we energize it with the mind, we're in for quite the ride. So how to really just notice it through the body. Anybody else?
Just like really like honoring and paying And then it moved to like a clenching in the the heart, and it's like, oh, but it's like, okay, so honor, acknowledge that. And then I breathed, and then like that kind of like softened and eventually like dissolved. And then I noticed, oh, I'm not even focusing on that, where I was like inspired to like come up with this persona of I'm fine, but like I'm now like focusing on myself and like doing like this inner self-care, where it's just kind of like, not to bring in too many other modalities, but what's that saying? It's just kind of like what you think about, you bring about. Yeah, so it's just kind of like, oh, so now I'm thinking about like being kind to myself and doing it for myself, and just like, so yeah, so thank you for that.
Yeah, beautiful noticing. Yeah, I think even just being able to see the breath moving it through, it's our natural process. It's not magic, right? And I'm not sure if I totally have the same experience, but I know for myself, if I am trying hard to not feel what I'm feeling, it takes up a lot of mental energy. And so we see in the research that at the end of the day of suppression, not just like being really emotional, the end of the day of suppressing your whole emotion is much more exhausting than almost any other strategy that we can practice. So in this way, we're carrying towards our emotions in this very kind of gentle way. Though it cannot, sometimes also not feel gentle. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
I've been having this experience of identifying what it is that's there to feel, but then not being able to feel it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wall, like gone, like no. It's very strong, and I'm like exasperated at myself. You know, I want to. I know it's uncomfortable, like in this shed, and I can't. Or it feels like I can't. And this has been true for like a while now.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Except be like, okay, it's still like this.
Yes. And then turning towards exasperation, would there be a feeling?
It's like you let like tired of yourself.
Yeah. But if there wasn't the words tired of yourself, like what would it feel? Like right at this moment when you think about it.
It's like
Clenching. Yeah. And I think, honestly, this isn't a trick. I'm not sure if this will allow your emotions to more freely enter and be felt. But I do think, just as you were describing, sometimes when we're turning towards, there's like a running away. I think a teacher that we share, Alan Wallace, calls it the bashful maidens, which seems a little outdated. This idea you turn towards, like your thoughts or emotions, and all of a sudden they're like, they disappear. So that, and the exasperation is awesome material to work with. All those like meta emotions around our practice. Like, I suck at this sucks. Oof, that's good stuff to shake hands with. And Sokmi calls it a handshake, because it's like an honoring, like, I see you, I meet you. It's not this like, let me give you this incredible hug, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Or like, get out of here. But with that meeting, we are, you said it, honor, right? We're honoring, I see you, I understand you, and I'm not trying to prematurely kind of push you under with compassion. So sometimes we inadvertently bypass some of our difficult emotional experiences if we're advanced practitioners of compassion, like this is bad, it's okay, I'm okay. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, that can be a great strategy. It occasionally removes our own ability to just let the emotion unfold as it needs to, which occasionally provides insight, but often just gives us that sense of real, like, this is a natural process. I just need to let it unfold as it needs to unfold. So I'd be curious if you try this practice again and turn towards the exasperation, what happens? And again, it's like, it's so hard to want to be good at identifying our emotions and not get tight. So how do we be good at it in this soft way? That's also a really nice exploration. Thanks, yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
It's funny because we kind of raised our hand at the same time, and I really relate to what you're saying. I was just noticing how I can get really caught up in the drama of a story, of something that happened to me, but it's almost like an avoidance. Like I'm watching it happen like a play, and then this happened, and then that happened, and I get all into sort of like the spiciness of it,
Yes.
but I'm not actually experiencing what I felt, or what my actual feelings are about it. It's sort of like experiencing it as a narrative or a story,
Yeah.
kind of distancing.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. I had this moment of sort of watching it from outside. Oh, okay, I'm sort of just telling this to myself, and I'm like, it's almost like a gossipy story, but it's actually something that happened to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting, and it is, good noticing to recognize, oh, actually I'm not in my body right now. This is entertaining me at this thought level, and that doesn't mean your body isn't having physiological reactions, right? It just means we're not able to kind of identify or ground. And it is interesting, we can think about going to a movie theater and watching what's displayed to us on a screen. And we're a little less involved, but there are still emotions. And what is our ideal position? Are we sitting in the theater watching? Are we on the screen in the drama? And as always, it's some sort of middle way, right? Because we don't want to get so cognitively fused with the story that we're lost back in it. But we don't want to be observing so far away that we're not really recognizing what's happening. So I think it's good to, again, kind of notice at the embodied level what's happening. Yeah. And this practice, which is so interesting, in and of itself is a really good shamatha or concentration practice. Our body is such a great place for us to kind of sharpen and refine our attention capacities. Any other? Yes?
The 60 to 90 second thing that you mentioned,
30.
it's just a complete mystery to me.
Yeah.
It feels like, okay, 60 to 90 seconds. I would think like 60 to 90 minutes for that duration of a book.
Yeah.
I guess, can you just like at the end of 90 seconds, you continue it, like you somehow, it's like, okay, let's go another 90 seconds, let's go another 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That's just amazing to me.
Yeah.
Such a short period.
30 to 90 seconds.
30?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Well, and I think, also, we're going to talk a little bit about the differences of understanding emotion from the context of Buddhist practice and then the Western scientific measurement of physiology, right? So we're talking about measuring what's kind of the life of your emotion cycle at the physiological level of your body, and that's also what we're looking to observe. So if we can get a sense of feeling that spike, I myself was thinking about this email I got that was slightly annoying, and I practiced with it when I got it, because I enjoy trying to apply what I teach to people. And it really, if I wasn't firing it up with this idea of how it shouldn't have happened that way, and that person shouldn't be like that, or whatever the story is, it's not a really big deal, it's just kind of annoying email. Right? So that's a mid or low level emotion experience. If we're talking about some injustice, that's going to get us fired up for a good hour. But that's because there's a good cognitive component involved. Like for me, if I let the experience of it resolve and be like, but they really shouldn't have said it. It's like, all right. But maybe, I can really animate it if I want. But when there's there are feelings at stake, there are lives at stake, there are resources at stake, there's a lot more cognitive activity, and our mind can trigger the emotion experience over and over. Yeah. Yeah, good question. And I think it's interesting to try with those mid-level things, to watch that half-life just kind of dissipate, right? Like someone cuts in front of you in line to get coffee. Kind of annoying, not a huge deal. How long do you feel it in your body? Without like, yeah, I bet they are this kind of person or that kind of person or da-da-da-da-da, do they know who I am? Right? We can like really energize it or we can watch it dissipate naturally. Yeah.
It's interesting to me to recognize how the trust that I have in my mind, which is the trust that I have in my body, and like to like it's like for me it's like, oh, I can trust. It's like I have to tell my mind to be like, I can trust my body with what's going on. Like I can trust my body to feel this. Like, and I do this a lot where I'm like, it's like my body. I presume I'm gonna get this from what I've been hearing at different times around the topic. My body's actually equipped to feel everything that it feels. You know, it's like, and somehow like my mind is like, oh no, I totally got it. Body, I think you need some help with it. And it's like, and if I'm not careful, like, all it's doing is actually the exact opposite, right? Because it's more like the self should be like, no, mind, character, it's what you gotta just kind of let it go a little bit, because really we got it over here. You know? And even, you know, practicing this throughout time, it's still just like this reliance on the cognitive awareness is so strong. It's like,
yeah, it's natural at a biological level. Doesn't mean we should just allow that to be the only pathway. And it is interesting to notice that mind, because it does, you know, again, we're actually not clear if mind is here, right? For all the evidence we have, not totally certain, but most of us think of our mind as here. But it does feel like an uprooting when we get back into our thoughts, like getting pulled back out. It's, the more we can notice it, and then the more we can see clearly the impact. And be like, mind, you're a ripoff, right? All right, I know this story. Yeah, beautiful, thank you. Yes?
Are there differences with like OCD and trauma, and how does a lot of this, in terms of the experience and the refiring of thoughts, the obsessionist and compulsive, and also, I know I'm asking two different things, but it's sort of can overlap as well, in people who have trauma.
Yeah, I don't know much about obsessive compulsive disorder, so I really, unfortunately, can't speak to it. And there's so much to know about trauma. It means so many things. Of course, my experience in working with folks with trauma in this practice is sometimes it's harder to access the body. And that trust isn't there. And there's, you know, a feeling of kind of reactive defensiveness against going into the body whatsoever. And so there might have to be a deliberate entry into a more neutral place. Hands or feet. Not every practice works for every person. You know, trauma is such a broad title, of course. And so I think the biggest, I would say, I don't know what the right word is, the biggest container or useful place is to really be sure that the emotions being revisited are those neutral, low-level ones. Right? Because the momentum of traumatic memories is very much outside of our conscious control. And so to invite them back in a loving context, but in a big room, would be very inappropriate. However, inviting them back in a loving context is the basis of exposure therapy. So this isn't like we're doing, and of course trauma's on a spectrum, right? So our difficult emotions, it's not like they're so different from trauma. They're a lower level of emotionally salient emotion. So we are re-exposing ourselves with love to something hard. Just not at the level that is traumatic, in which it has so much momentum. It's much harder for us to maintain and sustain that kind of distance and concentrative kind of space around it. Yeah.
And with like the 30 to 60 seconds of experiencing the emotion on a physiological level, like some of the sort of trauma, because I noticed, like I've had a history of that, and the physiological responses to sometimes just like a little bit above mundane situation, or the injustice and the refiring of the obsessiveness of like staying in your thought, but reactivity doesn't measure the actual event. So it's like I'm responding to it like as if there's a tiger in the bush.
Yeah.
And I notice that. And I noticed like the love and kindness and practice of patience and just the wonder of like, And so I don't like this. I want this to change.
Yeah. Again, I want to like stay in my lane of what I know and just say humbly, like we are not our diagnoses, and all of us have capacity for like such a long and open path of health and ill health, being and well-being and ill-being, and just to remember that all these practices shift and change for us as our life events change and shift around us too. But I'd love for you to tell me more at some point about your experience, because that would be the most instructive or interesting. Thank you. So we're gonna move on here to destructive emotions, and just briefly, wow, because we are excited to share a lot with you. So I'm going to give you this very just brief intro to destructive emotions from the first person perspective. I'm so lucky that I was actually at the meeting that this book chapter was based upon. So this book chapter was based upon a year 2000 meeting in Dharamsala, India, in which His Holiness called the entire meeting on the topic of destructive emotions because he thought it was so important. And he thought it was so important because it was getting in the way of people being able to connect, being able to feel compassion and love towards one another. And in his point of view, it was really one at the main root cause of all of the violence and war in our world, all of the misunderstanding, all of the kind of fractured experience. And he brought together a bunch of contemplative practitioners and scientists, all to give ideas about what do we do about these destructive emotions. And it was so delightful to just review this chapter and see how he has synthesized this wisdom in such a clear, accessible way. And the very first thing Chandra and I wanted to kind of talk about was the first question in this chapter is, can we actually change? Like, we all know destructive emotions are real, right? Consensus on them. There are difficult emotions. They cause some harm occasionally. But is there really consensus in this room that we can change? I said something new.
What do you mean by change? Like, can we stop having them?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
But I think we can work on how we work with them.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Can we change this propensity towards destructive emotions and the impact they have in our lives?
I think we can change the impact.
The impact.
Maybe not the, yeah, at least my personal experience has been that my trauma and other things have caused my overreaction to things, and that does not seem to be getting better.
Yeah.
Much better, even after like 20-some years of working on it.
Yeah.
But the way to respond to that initial reaction sometimes doesn't get better.
I love that confidence. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah, and what the Dalai Lama says, which I think is quite interesting, is he says that for many people who are materialists, so who maybe don't have a spiritual view, they might think, well, this is hardwired, this is biological, this is who we are, it's not going to change. And it's so interesting that all of us have been alive and witness to an enormous transition in science and understanding of the brain, namely in this form of neuroplasticity. And this idea that not everything we learn is in the first 6 years of life, and then again at this developmental stage in our teenage years, and then we're just stuck. That in fact our entire life is movement. But what Chandra and I are speaking about is even plasticity, I think, can be a bit of a hazardous term. We can get a little stuck on this idea of like, yeah, I can be more flexible. I can be plastic, right? And metaphors are useful. And yet sometimes they can almost limit what we think is possible. And so when I think of plasticity, I'm so grateful for it. It's a wonderful finding. It's so encouraging and empowering. But there's more than just being flexible around our difficult and disturbing or destructive habits of emotion. We should actually look for something greater than just being flexible. So we're going to talk a bit about the beautiful... Sorry about this. Turn it on here so it's not so loud. Thank you for that. It's so juicy. Yeah, I loved your response to what's your name? Sylvie. Because I had a similar experience also, and it was helpful. I was remembering it was anger, which we're going to talk about, and somebody had come up to me and said, "Oh, so-and-so said this," and suddenly I felt anger because I felt wrongly accused was the feeling of like, oh, there's a misunderstanding and now I've got to clean it up, and I was angry. But when I was recalling the memories, I couldn't feel the anger. I was just seeing the picture, seeing the movie. And then your guidance was very helpful, and finally what I was able to feel was, oh, I feel like I've been caught. And I didn't want to feel that. Like wrongly accused, yes, but also there was a feeling of guilt there, and I didn't want to feel it, so I couldn't feel it. And I was expecting to feel anger, but what was there was, I feel caught. So there was a frozenness about it. So then the meditation started flowing, and I could breathe with it and feel that. But oftentimes what we're feeling, what the body is ready to feel, is not what we think it's going to feel. So we need to be sensitive and meet what is there. And I find the same thing with feeding the demons. People will sit down and go, I have an idea, I want to feed this big demon. But what's up for them is heartbreak or jealousy, or something a little different, or a different nuance. And if they go override it with their mind and feed what they think they should feel, it doesn't have the kind of efficacy. It doesn't really flow in the same way as if they really met themselves where they were in a more authentic or honest way. And that takes practice. Ooh, it takes practice. Especially, I think meditators tend to like to meditate because in a way we don't go numb, but we kind of like just check out. Don't have to feel. So I really appreciated your meditation. I just wanted to share a little bit. And yeah, what's interesting is that in terms of destructive emotions, we want to just the biological response to feeling negative emotions, destructive emotions. The word that we're using in English is a translation of the Tibetan word nyonmon, which is an interesting word to say. Can everybody say it? Nyonmon. It's not easy to say. Nyonmon. Nyonmon. And I mean, it's funny, isn't it, to say that word? Nyonmon. So nyonmon means afflictive emotions or encumbered patterns. The people who have studied Lama Tsultrim's work will be familiar with these 5 nyonmon, the 5 afflictive emotions. And we also understand it in terms of the mandala structure, center in 4 directions, and how we transform those nyonmon, afflictive emotions, into wisdom. So that's a tantric approach. And there's an old saying in Tibet that there are many different ways to work with afflictive emotions. And of course, Tibetan Buddhism is tantric Buddhism, so they have a little bit of, they're a little proud of their tantric, the tantric tradition is the best. They have a little bit of that, which I think are all great, and even the tantrikas do too, really, because they have to study all of it. But there's an old saying that goes, in the foundational teachings, if a practitioner, this is an analogy with the afflictive emotions, and the analogy is that of a poisonous plant. So if a practitioner, if somebody comes across a poisonous plant, well, if you're practicing from the point of view of the foundational or the early teachings of Buddhism, you would cut it to try to get rid of it. You would just chop off the top. But you wouldn't really go to the root.
the Mahayana, or the middle way approach, would be to pull it up completely from the root. So it's a little better, you know, it's a little more long-term solution, right? When you're trying to weed, you want to get rid of the root. But what the Tantric, or the Vajrayana approach would do, is pull it up from the root and then transform that poisonous plant into a medicinal plant. Figure out how to glean the positive healing qualities from that plant. And so that's very much the process of kind of sort of where the Dalai Lama is coming from. He's kind of coming from more of a Mahayana approach, I feel, in this expose of working with challenging emotions. But we thought it would be interesting to share these different approaches of, okay, when you meet an afflictive emotion, you can come at it from different ways. You can resist it, which is that just chopping, and not dealing with the root, yeah? Or you could actually get to know it and discover where does it come from. And he talks about that. He talks about a few different approaches later on in the chapter. You can trace the chain of events that gave rise to this feeling and really understand where it came from, which is a very important part of healing. So that's that Mahayana, or that middle phase, where you would actually not be too afraid of it. You would just go, get out of here, chop it. You would actually pick it up and see what the root is. You try to understand it. And then the kind of more, I think it is in a way, maybe more edgy, more advanced, is for more experienced practitioners or doctors, would be to take it, you pull it up and you investigate it, and then you speak to it, yeah? You let the plant medicine speak to you, and you discover, what is your gift in there? It can't all be bad. So if anger arises, it's not all bad. The anger, it's telling us something, and sometimes it's very important. Sometimes it has a message for us, and is there for a reason. Yes, it might feel destructive, and if it's not digested and assimilated or befriended, I think, then it can be a destructive outburst, it can be hurtful. But if we can develop a kind of self-awareness and attentiveness, then we can actually use the energy that's in the anger for clear seeing, for effectiveness. I'm just going to jump this right now. So I got the mic and I'm going to keep it. No, kidding. I'm joking. I'm going to get 2 mics. Let's fundraise for 2 mics. That'd be even better. No, in the Tantric Buddhist approach, anger is seen as energy, just like all the other emotions, afflictive emotions. And the practitioner, what the work is to befriend it, to meet it, and various ways to do that, through meditation, through contemplation. I would say feeding of demons is also a more modern, effective way. Shaking hands with it is another effective way. Therapy is another effective way to then transform that energy that's within the emotion, let's say anger, because it's so strong. And what's the other side of the anger in Tantric understanding is a very clear, decisive, almost like a sword-like wisdom. It's actually called mirror-like wisdom, because it's a kind of clarity. Anger, the energy kind of tied up in our anger, is very cutting and clear seeing. And so that's the wisdom expression, or the liberated expression of the anger energy. And there are similar correlations to the other emotions of arrogant pride, desire, craving, attachment, jealousy, or envy is the word the Dalai Lama uses. And then ignorance is the center of this mandala, which is, he's translating, which is interesting, he's saying doubt. But ignorance is kind of a more technical term, and the Tibetan is ma-rikpa, which is ignoring. So it is a doubt, it is like a doubting. But it's a not knowing of who we really are. And that's at the center of this mandala structure. It's like a medicine wheel. Because that is really the root of our suffering. If we don't know ourselves, then a whole myriad of other problems arise from that. So next week I'll be teaching, and I'm going to go deeper into this more tantric understanding how we transform these myeonmong, these afflictive emotions.
Oh, I really, yeah, appreciate that. Our not knowing of ourselves at the very center, right? Or doubting ourselves. And one thing His Holiness talks about a lot in this chapter is that the destructive emotions get in the way of our discernment. Get in the way of our discernment, of our clear seeing, and that we project onto reality, and we don't see it clearly as it is. And that fundamentally gets in the way of our ethics. Right? We may have the most beautiful intention of what I want more than anything is to truly be of service in this life and be peaceful in mind and heart. And then we just like wake up and don't even have to turn on the news. Just maybe have a thought, memory, or image arise, and all of a sudden we're torn away from that value system, those ethics and those values. What I really do like about this idea of anger having this mirror-like quality, this energy, is it allows us to see that there's a benefit and a function to all of our emotions. It's not as though we need to just cut them. We indeed can learn from them and also be energized by them in a healthy way. And at this 2000 meeting, I remember one of the longest sections was my dad, who's a well-known emotion scientist, really kind of basic foundation science of physiology and facial expression of emotion, and the Dalai Lama having this extended debate on can anger ever be constructive? And one of the things I appreciate so much about the Dalai Lama, is that he's so willing to be proven wrong. He's like, here's what I know from the traditions and the lineages handed down to me, but what I really want to understand is you show me the evidence and the data, I can apply it and look at it myself, and my mind can be changed. Wow, I admire that. And he really did look more clearly at, especially moments of frustration, and see that, yeah, there is a constructive possibility. But for all of us working here who are not the Dalai Lama, trying to understand our emotions, we actually have a lot of work to do in the clear seeing. So the basic strategies fall into what he calls a two-pronged approach. One prong is really getting to understand the root of our difficult, destructive emotions. Why are they happening? What do they feel like? What do they lead to? What are the consequences? And the other is supporting, generating, and increasing the feelings of goodness. What's good, what's beautiful, what's wholesome. And so this first part of this seeing clearly, I like to think of it, hearkening back to, hope everybody is safe, and they're not coming right here. Hearkening back to reading of the Shantideva Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life. In this text, Shantideva suggests to us that we need to do confession of our neurotic thought crimes. It's the only way we're going to find liberation. So we're going to invite you to do a little bit on confession of neurotic thought crimes, this time specifically around anger. And we want you to think about, when has anger, frustration, irritation, we were talking about irritation and impatience as, what were you saying? You said something really beautiful around what it was we were believing, the toxic urgency behind a lot of our irritation and impatience. So when are we being fueled to a feeling of frustration out of urgency, out of kind of self-related concern? And when are we being fueled, and actually we find that anger provides a mirror-like wisdom to us that we can learn from. And so what we invite you to do is to find someone near you who you know or you don't know, up to you. Be brave, be meek or shy, maybe that's not meek or shy, be comfortable. And we would love to give you guys about 5 minutes. We won't do it in the kind of more structured way, just to have a conversation of, when have you clearly seen anger that provides mirror-like wisdom? When have you seen anger that has really provided an opportunity for destructive emotions? Meaning the outcome is harmful to yourself or others. And let's keep it again to this mid-range example. Right? We all are in Sangha here, but unfortunately not here for a long time, so we don't want to open up what we might not be able to put back together in the space of the next 15 minutes. So I'm inviting you to choose a mid-level range of frustration, irritation. There's so much of it out there. So feel free to choose. And find your partner. Share an example. 1, 2, or 3 people is fine.
Yeah. That'd be helpful. That's good.
It should be only
Design clients, design clients, they told me I was under the census. I said,
There's 2 questions. It was like, when is anger
never do that to her. You are being mean. You don't need to be acting. You don't need to be mean to find a solution.
6 years old.
So clear. I was like, you're right. Thank you for being so clear. So I think everyone being more clear is
When it forces you to articulate. I kind of like force it. I like that idea. sleep, but it's like, I'm thinking of this over Christmas. So this, I'm gonna see if I can get it to be as positive. Like I open my gift right here, it's like, parents, and my partner, and my dad. We've kind of done all of the holiday stuff. And like now, watches it on. So for me, that's really triggering. It's just like kind of like, to me, it was like kind of cliche, like parental dynamic, pressure, yeah, physical pressure. But I immediately, like 10 years ago, so I'm, okay. I guess there was, we can maybe recapitulate it.
What the Dalai Lama shares with us. He says, anger is not always destructive. For example, in some situations, strong compassion may give rise to an equally strong sense of outrage. That is anger about an injustice. Again, feeling angry can, in the short term, make our minds more focused and give us an extra burst of energy and determination. In these ways, anger can, in certain situations, make us more effective in getting things done and obtaining what we rightly seek. However, when anger extends beyond this practical function, most of the energy it brings us is not helpful at all. Since all of us, probably at one time or another, have been the receiving end of other people's anger, we have the experience of its unpleasant consequences. However, while anger may sometimes have constructive elements, hatred never does. Hatred is always destructive. So I like that clear distinction, right, of with hatred, what's included is ill will, right? And it's not just I'm angry at you now, and I'm not angry at you later. It's this festering, ongoing sense of certainty. Right? What we hate, we consider to be always bad and wrong. There's no room for flexibility. So curious, did anybody have any mirror-like searing wisdom? Anger, they would be willing to share or anything, yeah.
I was kind of reflecting on two different types of experiences, and one is when I have kind of that anger or frustration with just life circumstances, society, or whatever, in a more general, kind of ambiguous way.
Yeah.
And that's where I just react and I'm not able to use it in any sort of mirror-like way.
Yes.
But in dealings with my mother, who has a tendency to sometimes frustrate me,
I know what you're talking about.
I find that I am able to use that experience of anger as a mirror, and I think it's because it's one person, and I love her, and I have compassion towards her, and I'm trying to understand where she's coming from. So I just really try to peel away the layers and figure out like why, and learn from that.
Beautiful. Yeah, I truly value that. And that is the beautiful use of practice, right? To use those, what can be like enormously painful, frustrating, and to just say, looking at them, yeah, thanks. And I remember asking Chandra earlier before we were here together, is there any anger that can't be transformed? Is there anything that's just kind of crappy and shouldn't be around? My example, as many of you will predict, had to do with Bart. And I talk about a lot. But it was, today I was feeling frustrated by how loud Bart is in between West Oakland and downtown. It's like, it's really loud, really, really loud. And they just completed the reconstruction project to make it less loud. So I felt this, Bart, so loud. And I was like, can I transform that? Is there an opportunity? And what we were kind of looking at is, well, I want to be healthy and well. I don't want to be agitated at this level. I don't want my kind of nervous system to be so just discombobulated. Loud sound is naturally going to be threatening to all of us. It's just a hardwired trigger. So maybe what I can learn from that mirror-like wisdom of Bart is that I need to bring earplugs.
Yes.
Right? Because I'm not going to change that system. And so I think it is sometimes hard to find, like, can any of our destructive responses, could they have found their mirror-like wisdom? Does anybody have a destructive one you can't imagine mirror-like wisdom coming out of? Yes?
Certain relationships, I think, like that they're just so unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like that they're just like, I don't talk to my brother anymore because it was just too many years. But like I just kind of can't see. And it's better not talking to him,
Yeah.
even though it's really sad.
Yeah. But isn't the wisdom in the boundary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we maybe misunderstand that mirror-like wisdom means the anger has to go away. Right? That would be appropriate? It doesn't have to go away.
Yeah, I think that it's not the person or even the relationship that is the anger, right? It's the anger that's in you. So how is that? It sounds like after a period of time you realized, well, this anger is here for a good reason now. And what came as a solution is setting up a boundary so that you weren't hurt by that relationship anymore. So I think when you asked me that while we were having dinner, I said, I've got to say that anything can be transformed. I have to, otherwise I'm just in the wrong field, you know? And then I found my way, you know, like, yeah, it's because how do we heal? We understand, right? So why is the anger there? Maybe there was some hurt or misunderstanding or a wrong that was done. So if you can trace back to why that anger is there, it's there for a reason. That gives you understanding, and then that understanding is that mirror-like wisdom, is that clarity, that clear seeing, that then can respond. And respond to the boundary, or you speaking your truth, or doing whatever it is that needs to be done. My son is 11, and he is probably takes up after his old mom. He tends towards anger. He gets angry at his friend for little lies or cheating in games, and he came home from school a couple days ago and said, "Oh, I'm just so angry at his best friend." I won't say his name, but his best friend is fabulous. I love him, but I've witnessed that he does kind of warp reality a little bit to his advantage, and that really frustrates my kid, and I'm sure my kid does it too. Yeah. So they're in this push and pull, and my son gets very angry at him. And his friend told him at school, "Tejas, you have anger issues." And so Tejas shared that with me. I was like, "Oh, you do have anger issues, I have to say." And I'm like, "I think I do too," you know. And so we were able to connect with that, and then I realized that wasn't, you know, I can't just leave them with that kind of label. So I came back in this room and I said, you know, I feel angry too. We're always going to feel anger, and it's how we work with it. It's how we learn from it and breathe. How we can learn how to pause and respond in a way that's not as hurtful. We have to make friends with our anger. And I saw his whole face go, yeah. You know, like, it was a good moment. I was like, okay, good mom. You know, like, but we need to definitely, like, some of us, how many of us are more prone to anger? How many people get angry? It's a lot, but not everybody. You know, some people more than others tend to have that. Now, my husband, who's an acupuncturist, would say, if your liver is toxic, you will tend towards more anger. That's why alcoholics tend to, you know, be more prone to outrage and explosion and anger. So it can also be a physiological propensity, but some people are just more prone to anger than others. So if you're one of them, it's good to just name it. I've got anger issues. Okay, I'm an angry person. I'm not an angry person, but I can get angry. And so I need to shake hands with my anger. I need to make friends with it and make friends with it, acknowledge it so that we can learn from it and actually become more integrated and powerful through that.
Well, anger can be directed outside, but I'm very angry with myself mostly.
Yeah.
So that's also, I'm a very angry person with this person.
Yeah.
So that's also relationship.
Yes.
Relationship to that.
Yes.
It's also
Absolutely.
important. You know, so it's about a relationship, isn't it?
It is about relationship.
How I change my emotions is about changing my relationship to my emotions.
That's it.
So it's a relational.
It's always relational.
And that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Myself.
Yeah.
I can run myself down beautifully. I know that.
Yeah. We're very hard on ourselves. More hard on ourselves than we tend to be on other people. So that's why in these classical practices, such as metta, loving kindness practice, which is one antidote to anger, is to start with ourselves. And then based on that, we can then extend loving kindness to others more readily. But it's a very important thing. I think it's a big, almost like an epidemic in our culture, is self-loathing, self-hatred. I'm not good enough, I'm a piece of shit. So it's a big step to put the hand on the heart and love ourselves and welcome home the anger, make friends with the anger. Find the
Particularly
wisdom.
with young people now, with social media, comparing yourself and self-loathing,
Yeah. The youth, social media, yes.
Comparison. Yes. We got through all the 5 pages of this chapter. So much more we would love to share with you. I just want to kind of come together because speaking about both the advantages or mirror-like wisdom, we tend to just kind of land on the, God, this is hard. This is hard work. Seeing this stuff, being witness to this work, and trying to figure out how to move forward. And the Dalai Lama really suggests to us that to counter the tremendously powerful destructive emotions that we all have within us, we need to develop very strong enthusiasm and determination for the task. And this enthusiasm will come in large part from considering the negative impact of those emotions. In addition to being powerfully destructive in moments of intense feeling, they can also have an insidious, corrosive effect on our inner well-being. Gradually and surely they undermine our inner peace, deprive us of mental freedom, and hinder the expression of our empathic nature, the source of our greatest happiness. In fact, we could even say that all the violence and destruction in the world are the result of hatred. The damaging consequences of hatred can be observed at every level. And so he suggests that we contemplate as a way to really kind of gather our enthusiasm, the impact of these destructive emotions. Not like the most enjoyable thing to consider. And yet, without that kind of motivation, we're like, yeah, I'll work on that later when I do all those other projects. Right now, I gotta get other things done. So how do we really develop the motivation to transform, to make medicine out of these destructive emotions? See them incredibly clearly, especially their consequences at the inner level, interpersonal level, global level. That we're motivated to really notice and to be with them and to find a way to make friends. And I totally agree that at the noticing how we are doing that with ourselves. And it's interesting that Dalai Lama says he spent some time with a psychologist named Aaron Beck, some of you may know, who's studied depression and all sorts of other mental health issues for decades and decades. And Aaron Beck and Buddhist psychology came to the very same idea around anger, which is how much of it is an enormous exaggeration, whether we're projecting that onto ourselves or onto others, that dissipates when the emotion itself has dissipated. And so when we're in the grip of an emotion, can we at least notice, this is an exaggeration. There's one thing I'm sure of. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. I don't know what will happen. This is definitely an exaggeration. That might be one thread for us to start working on. So let's take a moment to dedicate our merit here. Finding the breath in the body. Maybe even finding a little spaciousness around whatever emotion residue might be here. finding the enthusiasm to look closer at our difficult or disturbing emotions. And considering that any work we've done here together this evening may have ripples and implications far greater. May this work here tonight transform our own hearts and minds, so that we may all be more available of service and empathy, compassion, and care. Towards the hope that all beings would be happy and know the causes of happiness. All beings would be free from difficult emotional reactions and consequences. That all beings would know peace. Thank you all. Apologies for going a couple minutes over. We have a couple announcements. One is that we actually need help to live stream next week. We have about 3 people who normally do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All of them are busy next week. Can anybody interested? They can get trained tonight. Not all at once. That would be so awesome. Thank you so much. Other announcements, there's always amazing things happening here. Anything?
And those things specifically include.
Yes.
So next weekend, there's this cool thing, this woman, Alejandra Siroca.
This weekend.
Sorry, yeah, it's this weekend, I'm totally confused about time. She's doing this series, speaking of, microphones, not on, forgot what I was going to say. Doesn't matter. I am going to talk about this workshop on conscious communication and relationships for couples and individuals. So that should be great, right? Because that's right where the rubber hits the road with the encumbered emotional pattern in relationship. So there's a flyer about that, so come and check that out. That would be great. And it's a series, so there's more than one weekend. So that's also nice. Yeah, she's really good.
Nonviolent communication master.
And then every third Saturday, so not this coming Saturday, but the following one is the climate change Sangha. So folks might be interested in that, which is also very relevant for our times. And then a heads up for Sunday, February 2nd. Chandra's actually doing a day long here on Saturday. And it's going to be the low song or mind training stuff. So those of you who might have done that series with her back in the day now, could come and steep in it for an entire day with her. And those of you who didn't, who might be interested in learning a little bit more about Lojong or the mind training, it might be familiar a little bit from the work that we've done here with Eve. Come and see that, and we'll talk more about it. I'm just holding up the flyer so you know what they look like when you're over there.
It's not feeding your needs. It's not feeding your needs. No, it's not feeding us.
I made chocolate at the front desk and Eve, and not in exchange for Donna, but if you want to get Donna.
As thank you. As many of you know, the center's run totally on donations. So anything that you can give, according to your capacity, is greatly appreciated. The teachers who do this, on Donna base. The organization is totally volunteer and Donna base. So please give as generously as you can. And also, I wanted to let you know, I put a bunch of these catalogs on that long table. This is Tara Mandala, which is an organization that I'm very much involved with. It's in Southwest Colorado. Beautiful retreat center, 700 acres. We have retreat cabins you can rent and do your own solitary retreat, something I'm sure you've all been dying to do. And or we also have, retreats, teaching retreats, and other things that you can do. It's a beautiful catalog this year. And I'll be there this summer. We have a family retreat, August 1st through the 7th. If you've got kids and want to come do something meaningful with them, the family retreat is a lot of fun. There are a lot of other good retreats happening as well. So please take one, take a few, give them to friends, help us spread the word. We much appreciate it. And this could just look good on your altar too. This is one of the ceiling mandalas have a Tara, we have a 21 Tara temple. The whole interior of the temple is lined with 3/4 life-size Tara statues. 21 Taras and 21 manifestations of the Divine Mother. So Tara Mangala is really a special place. It's one of the only Buddhist retreat centers that's devoted to the Divine Feminine. And of course we welcome Divine Masculine and everything in between too and beyond. But it's a special place and it's one of my homes. So please take some, learn about it and join us. And SFDC has been very supportive of Tara Mangala Sangha too. We're like a sister organization. So thanks everybody. Have a great night and I'll see you next week. Thanks to the